afternoon, everyone. I'd like to have everyone, we're going to start the service now for our dad and your dear friend, Henry Shapiro. And I'm Roz Shapiro Lynch. My husband, Brian Lynch. I know you've seen us around here a lot. And my sister, Rena Rohrabaugh, she's out from Pennsylvania. Dad's cousin, first cousin, Arlene Fogelson-Lelling. And we have a couple other guests, Jerry Bates from the First Presbyterian Church of Berkshire Valley. He's going to sing one of Dad's original songs. And Dad's dear friend, Mike Delvecchio from Dover. Dad actually attempted to teach Mike piano lessons, which I'm quoting Mike, or maybe Dad. Mike's mother actually worked in our grandpa and Dad's store in Dover, so the history goes way, way back. So we want to welcome you here today. And Dad passed away, as you probably all know, on May 1st, and actually 3:38 p.m. in the afternoon in his apartment. So we're going to start with a musical piece that's set to from the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes, and Brian's going to sing first. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. You were listening to one of Dad's CDs when you were coming in. I just want you to know that. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. The time to be born, the time to die, the time to plant, the time to reap, the time to kill, the time to heal, the time to laugh, the time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time that you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven.
right now I'd like to recite a poem that, I'll call it a poem, it's in the Jewish prayer book, I guess, Arlene, right? That is read at the graves generally. I've been reading it in English. Dad also read this himself back in the summer when one of his very best friends, Bill Kunshe, who was in his 60s, passed away. And in the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. In the rustlings of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember him. In the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is a part of us now, as we remember him. Now let us remember Henry Hank by listening to one of his favorite songs that he requested we play today, and he's playing it himself. We have his tape, playing Somewhere in Time.
We're going to start off today with a couple of what I think are great songs. The first one is called Somewhere in Time, and the second one is a song called Sweet Low. And we have I think, a great variety of songs today, so I hope you enjoy it.
It will.
So beautiful. Right now, I want to read to you about Dad's life. Maybe, I'm sure many of you don't know a lot about this. Henry Hank Shapiro played piano since he was 5 years old and professionally entertained folks since he was 13. Actually, he played, we figured, professionally 88 years, which is the number of keys on a piano. He was born to Ida Fogelson Shapiro and Israel Irving Shapiro on September 13, 1920, in their 49 Belmont Avenue home in Dover. where Henry lived with his older brother Saul and his maternal and paternal grandparents. Henry's grandfather was a rabbi and one of the original founding members at the Dover Jewish Center on Orchard Street in Dover. Dad attended Dover Public Schools and graduated in 1937 from Dover High. When he was 5, and for the next 12 years, he was taught classical piano from Paul Sievers in Dover. He studied ragtime with Ole Angle in Dover, and it was the same teacher that all of his children had in Dover. She was fabulous. His first paid job was in 1933 at Lake Apacong at a place called Gerhardt's. He played 3 hours a night and was paid 75 cents. When he was 16, he had his own big band, the Hank Shapiro Orchestra. He played at many of the dance clubs in northern New Jersey. He entertained for weddings and proms and bar and bat mitzvahs, holiday and private house parties. When he graduated from Dover High, he really began studying his musical endeavors in earnest. And in 1937, he would commute to New York City twice a week to take jazz improv from Henry Scott on 57th Street. He simultaneously studied writing and arranging from Otto Cessna on 57th across from Carnegie Hall. And 2 years later, Mr. Cessna referred Dad to Henry Wasserman, who was George Gershwin's musical arranger. And Dad studied with him on 58th Street. His musical studies were interrupted by World War II. And by the way, he told us he never saw a piano the whole 3 years he was overseas. He enlisted in the Army Air Corps and was performed at the Jefferson House when he was enlisted in World War II. He married his high school sweetheart, Doris Weber, in Chicago just before he was deployed overseas. He served 4 years as a captain in the South Pacific. After the war, he worked at his family's retail store on 28 West Blackwell Street in Dover, Shapiro's modern economy store. He raised 4 children, he and Doris, Rena, Ronald, Rosalind, and Rochelle. In time, after that store was sold, after our grandpa passed away, Dad had the Economy Mart in Franklin and then the Little Folk Shop in Sparta, and all the time playing music for special events and on the weekends. But he was also a leader in the Dover Area Chamber of Commerce. He was a Board of Ed member on the Dover Public Schools for 15 years. We had the honor, most of us, to have Dad present us with our high school diploma on graduation night. The current Dover Public School, the new high school, as we called it, was built during his tenure, and he was active in the Dover Band Boosters, and even had his orchestra perform for a fundraiser at Bertrand's Island in Lake Apacong. He was an active member in the local musicians union. He served as an officer multiple times. All through the years, he played for special occasions, regularly nights and weekends, and he volunteered in his community. He assisted with music therapy in a local nursing home and at the Lydia Hayes Home for the Blind. In the 80s, Dad moved to Florida in North Fort Myers. He continued playing at clubs on the West Coast. He and his friend Phil Gracia, who had the dance studio in Dover, maybe some of you knew him, they organized and entertained for an annual Dover Day reunion in Florida. In 2014, he returned to his native New Jersey. He re-entered the music scene in northern New Jersey with a performance at the Garden State Yacht Club for the Lake Apacong Historical Society. Residents at numerous local assisted livings and nursing homes looked forward to his weekly performances, as well as performing at local libraries. He also performed weekly in Morris County at restaurants and in Sussex County. In 2018, you can see it on the piano later, he was awarded a formal resolution from the Morris County Board of Freeholders and a joint legislative resolution from the State and General Assembly of New Jersey. It was presented to him by the now late Senator Anthony Bucco. He was honored as, quote, a model to emulate, demonstrating a standard of excellence and achievement throughout his life. 2019, he was honored and entertained at the 100-year-old celebration of the Palace Theater in Nekong. At age 100, prior to the pandemic, he was still performing regularly. And in March of 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, and right after having heart valve replacement surgery, he was the oldest musician, we were told, at Morristown Hospital to have that procedure done, almost the oldest person. Dad shared his talent weekly by performing every Saturday at 5 o'clock on Facebook Live and YouTube. He lifted the spirits of people globally. He attained over 2,000 followers on Facebook. And then he was featured on CBS News and NJ.com and known locally as the PianoMan. He frequently received phone calls and met fans who would greet him by saying, "Your orchestra played at my high school prom. You played at our wedding. Are you the Henry Shapiro I saw on Facebook?" Hank loved to reminisce with folks, and at 101 and a half years of age, he still enjoyed bringing live music into people's lives. So to reflect on Dad's love of music, Dad also wrote a poem. And our sister Rena would like to read that poem to you now. It's about his love of music in his life.
When Dad was in North Fort Myers, he became very active in the Unitarian Church there, and he was an integral part of their music program. And on a special Sunday in 2003, he was honored by the church as Hank Shapiro Day, and they were so appreciative of his lending and sharing his talents to them. I don't know exactly when he wrote this poem. It's called My Melodies. It may have been in conjunction with that honor, but here goes. The melodies I hear are the melodies of my mind, bringing back the memories I thought I'd never find. There were the sad times of many years gone by. There were the happy times that really seemed to fly. The melodies I hear are the melodies of my heart, bringing back the memories of life and love right from the start. There were tears of happiness I really couldn't hide. There were joyous years of my family by my side. These melodies I hear are the melodies of my life, recalling times of happiness and the times of strife. Some of the times almost forgotten, now misty memories, but I find them all within the notes of my cherished melodies.
Now our friend Jerry Bates will sing the song called To My Mother. And this came about because I'm the organist at the Berkshire Valley Presbyterian Church, and we had a dear member there named Doris Roberts. She was very active in the community in Jefferson Township. And one day when I first met her, she said, "Okay, I want to take you out to lunch at the Windlass, the old Windlass," and she plopped down like this high, all her poetry and all her music, and said, "Look through this, what do you think of it?" And the one poem was To My Mother, and there were a couple others, and I said, "Well, maybe my daddy's in Florida, but maybe he could, would you want him to try to set it to music?" And she goes, "Well, I don't want to impose on him, you know." And I called him up, and he said, "Of course, I'd love to try. I don't know if she'll be satisfied with it or not." And so they finally met in person when Dad came back north, and now this is sung every year on Mother's Day since, I don't remember the year, Jerry, it was written, but Jerry's in the choir. Yeah, it's been a long time, so here we go.
Yeah, and I think Doris would have really she wanted me to sing this because I was the youngest of 15 in my family. So when it comes to mothers, I mean, she is mother of 15 children, only 14 of us survived. There's only 6 of us left. So.
6 left.
Yeah, 6 left.
Whoops, it went off. Sorry.
All cherished gifts sent from above, God that somehow things go right for me. Her guiding hand through childhood days helped lead me on to adult ways. Her faith, her love, her tender care are golden memories we share. And always deep within my heart, a special place I've set apart, a place that no one else can share. For Mother dear, always there. And when I say my prayers at night, down on my bended knee, I say I'm thankful, yes I'm thankful that God gave you to me.
We have enough time now. I would like to play a song that we just found that we had never heard Dad play before. And it's called Far Away. That he wrote. Yes, he wrote this himself. So it's called Far Away. beautiful, isn't it? Yes. Another request Dad asked us to play at his service. Actually, just a week before he passed away, he told us exactly what he wanted, is You Raise Me Up. And here he is playing it now.
Gentlemen, this is Hank Shapiro, or Henry, whatever name you like. I hope you enjoy the songs we're going to do this afternoon. The first song will be You Raise Me Up. I did this not long ago as a finale, but the situation in the country is so bad, I figured it would be good to start off with it. And we're going to follow that with the song made famous by Doris Day, Que Sera, so if you want to sing it.
I think Jim wanted to say a few words about that. Okay?
Most of you know me, some of you do not. I am the head of the Wharton Senior Transportation Program. I also drive the bus every day, and for the past year and a half, I've got to know Hank really well, and I could never wait to see him more because every time I saw him, I got a history lesson. And it was amazing. And all of my family knows what I do now that I've retired and how much I love my job. What I didn't know was my entire family knew Hank. They were all born in Dover, all grew up in Dover. Every one of my aunts, uncles, and older cousins all know Hank Shapiro. What I didn't find out until Friday was that my best friend had a wedding here, brought up in Dover, married a girl from Dover. had a wedding at what we call the Regency Hotel, Regency now, which used to be called the Dutton Hotel. And that's where they got married. And the entertainment was Hank Shapiro. So we have crossed more times than I can try to remember, and I've tried very hard to remember, especially the times when he was in Sparta, because I spent my whole life in Sparta. Even though I was a Denver Rockaway boy, our business was in Sparta, and we've been up there since 1955, and I still reside there. None of this has any real reason as to why I'm standing here. About a year and a half ago, I started this program down here in Wharton, and the town was very nice to spend $110,000 and buy me a brand new bus. I thought it was pretty damn nice. So Mary rode the bus quite often with me, and one of the days, she kept saying, Hank's gonna get on one of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and he never did. Finally, out the door, and Mary says, hey, Hank's coming with us. I'm like, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. I was really excited because he was just such an interesting man. So there's 3 steps going up to my bus. Hank got as far as 2. He turned, he looked. He said, Jim, this is a nice looking bus. I said, it is. I said, thank you, taxpayer, for helping with it. So he came up and he said to me, Jim, you got a pillow on this bus? I said, Hank, I'm like, a pillow? I said, I've sat in these seats, they're really comfortable. It's a brand new bus. I had had it months. Now I really need a pillow. I said, Hank, honest God, just try it. Jim, I got a bony ass. and I need a pillow. I was like, Hank, I don't have a pillow, but I'll find you one. I'll get you one, you know. So all day I could think about was 2 things, pillow and Hank's bony ass. So we rode around that day, and I don't know where we went or what we did, and none of that is important anyway. But I couldn't wait to go out the following day and find a pillow. So this has been Hank's pillow on the back of my bus in the very back seat since that day, the second day he was on after his ride. And I always left it there. It was always for him if he needed it. I think he used it once, but it was always there, and it was nobody else's pillow but Hank's pillow. It's no secret that Mary and Hank adored each other. They had wonderful times together. There was no doubt from the first time I met them how much she meant to him, he meant to her. So there's going to be times coming up soon, some of which you've already experienced, of sadness, and there's going to be laughter, and both are okay emotions. But it's always better to laugh than to cry. And this pillow allows you to grab him, put a smile on your face, and grab him by his bony ass. So, darling, this pillow will never be on the bus again. This is your pillow to do whatever you want. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, we all know Mary was a really important part of Dad's life, and we're all very grateful for that and the relationship they had. We're going to next, in the Jewish tradition, have Cousin Arlene read the Mourner's Kaddish, and then Mike, Dad's friend, wants to play taps. And then at the end, we're going to be playing 2 songs Dad closed all his gigs with. One is Smile by Charlie Chaplin, and the other one is I'll Be Seeing You, which is heart-wrenching. You played that for Brian and me when, right before his heart surgery, Brian took his keyboard into the hospital room at Goreb, I'm sorry, at Gagnon 5, I think it was, the heart wing, and because Dad was really, antsy, and so Dad played for all the patients on the cardiac wing and all the nurses and the doctors, and even the doctor before his heart surgery took a video. He said, "Hank, can I take your video?" And he said, "Yes." So right before the surgery, which was successful, Dr. Mandel showed the team in the operating room and said, "You see why we're operating on this man, Henry? Now don't screw it up." And they didn't. But anyway, I thought I'd just add that interjection of the story. So, and then when we're all finished, if anybody else wants to say anything, and then we have refreshments for everybody. So, Mike? Oh, I'm sorry, Arlene. I got carried away. I got distracted in the story. So, Arlene.
What am I supposed to do, sing or play?
Recite the cottage.
I was with Roz and Brian right before Hank's surgery, and when the doctor came down, and evidently he said to everyone in the operating room, "You better get this one right."
Remember that?
I just want to say that Hank was so ageless. He could sit down with a little kid or an older person, and you were comfortable with him. And he could make remarks and jokes, and he was, we grew up in Dover. He was my father's favorite because he was the younger in the family, and he always rode in the rumble seat of my father's car. We always called him Henry. Hank came on later. And he played at my Sweet 16 birthday party, which was at Three Sisters in Dover, and I really have to find that movie of it. And he was lecturing me then. He was always lecturing me, and his memory never failed. I saw him a few days before he passed, and he asked for every single member of the family, and even told me one or two stories about a couple cousins I didn't even know what they had done. So he was remarkable. My Hebrew is not the best, but it is the prayer that we do say when someone passes. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabal v'yamlei mal hushay tilcham Yisrael habagay uvmazayu riu v'yaru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavora layolam v'yolayom olmayro. Yitzbara v'yitzbasha v'yitznasar v'yitznomain. V'yitzaleh v'yitzalal shalei kashudallah. V'yaru amen. Yohei shalei marayam, Yoshaleim Yalenu Yov Israel. Vir Maru Amen. O Yaseh Shalom Biramu. Hiya She Shalom. Alenu V'Yakov. Yismarel Virarum. Amen. Amen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sorry, I have to find the one, the last one. Here it is.
Closing songs I've done before. I'll be seeing. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to say a few words? Jane?
I'm so glad I lived next door to Henry. He was such a mentor to me. Not a Sunday went by that he didn't ask me, how did the choir sing? How did the bells play? And then he would add, and how about that water coming down in your apartment? He was such a wonderful musician. I never met a musician like him in my life. And I'm so glad that I knew him and that I could talk to him about music and for all the good advice he gave me and all the encouragement with the music that I do in my life. He was a wonderful man. I'm going to miss him terribly.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. I guess that's the end of the program, and
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being such an important part of his life. It's final years here.
yes, there's another woman here who wants to say something. Okay,
Okay, good.
come on up, just take the mic.
I want you to read it.
You want me to read it?
Hank gave me this a couple years ago.
Okay.
My mom was the same way.
Okay, here's what Al wants me to read that Dad gave him a few years ago. It does not matter if you're black and I'm white. It will not matter. If you're female and I'm male, it will not matter. If you're older and I'm younger, it will not matter. If you're progressive and I'm a conservative, it will not matter. If you're straight and I'm gay, it will not matter. If you're Christian and I'm Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter.
He gave me that.
Oh, you would like one.
If you want to know, I'm not so sick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else? Okay, well,
He entertained a lot of us and we all enjoyed it.
thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. And remember, he lives on in his music. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't know him that long, but I always would see him walking out in the hall and stuff. And I gave him a name for me, my handsome man. Because he's about the handsomest old man I ever seen. And I didn't know he was that age, but I always called him my handsome man. Mary knew I always did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bonnie?
I remember Mary and Hank sitting outside one day, and I said to Hank, if I wasn't married, I already would ask you to marry me. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I am married. But I loved him, Dad, so very much. He was so special to me, and I loved talking to him about his early years growing up. He was such a wonderful man. We talked about everything, about the Jewish religion, and it was just so very special knowing him and, again, loving him as we both do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good friends.
Okay. Well, Eddie, if you feel like you want to say something, just come up and take the mic, even while we're having coffee or water and cookies and dessert here. So, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.